We're really excited to have you all here. We're going to be recording this session and just so that it'll be available later online, and we'll share more details about that when it becomes available. But today we're here to talk about the Center for Civic Engagement on this day of service and remembrance of 9/11. My name is Meg Pancook. I work at the Center for Civic Engagement. I'm the Community Partnerships Coordinator here. Dave, do you want to introduce yourself?
And I am Dave Jones. I'm the Student Engagement Coordinator with the Center for Civic Engagement, and we are delighted that you have offered to have us here today.
Yay. All right. So here's just a little kind of precursor, what to expect for the day. So we're going to start off just by telling you a little bit about us in the Center for Civic Engagement, what we are, what we do, and then share some helpful things, stuff for global students, things for you to get engaged with our office, and things we offer to the global campus. Then we're going to do a quick intro to GivePulse and maybe do a little walkthrough together of that platform. And then we'll go through finding your community and your interests and talk through kind of strategies and ways to get engaged and do things that excite you and take you outside of your comfort zone. All right.
And if any of you have any questions at any time, feel free to ask them. Okay, this is an overview of what the Center for Civic Engagement is, who we are and what we do. These are our values. The first is community. Community is very important to us, and we'll talk more about that later, but really a sense of belonging and reciprocity, where we view ourselves as co-educators with our students and with our community partners. Awareness is our next core value. It's self-knowledge and informed democratic engagement are at the center of what we do. Respect, we've mentioned reciprocity once already. It's here again because of how important it is to us. We definitely believe in making all of the engagements that we have reciprocal so that everyone benefits from them. We're also very interested in the perspective taking that these opportunities allow for both our students, our partners, and ourselves, and the responsibility that inheres when we respect others. Social justice is a new value relatively to us, where we prize inclusion and equity, anti-racism and anti-colonialism, and sustainability, believing that healthy people in the planet are important. The stuff that we do and the stuff that our students do should make a lasting impact and contribute to environmental justice. We also have a few global student-specific items for all of you. We have public square discussions that you can watch on the CCE's YouTube channel. We actually can make a link available toward the end of that, but you can also just look us up on YouTube. Those happen 2 or 3 times per semester, and the first one will take place on September 27th, which is a Wednesday from 3 to 4 p.m. That's when it will happen live, and it will be live streamed, and it will be available on our YouTube channel for you all to watch later, as are our past recordings. We have service learning courses. More than 400 of your peers take a service learning course with the professors who work with us every semester. And oh, thank you. I didn't even share that, but thank you for sharing that. We also have workshops that we host at Global COOG Leadership and Pacific Northwest Student Leadership events. And we can also help you find an opportunity or a community organization anytime. So feel free to call or write us for any assistance that you would need. We'd love to help you anytime. I'm sorry, Meg, I forgot. This is a bunch of me in a row. No, we're on to the next slide. But we also have COOG's Vote workshops. This gets its own slide because we have special QR codes for you. We have a couple of workshops on how you can become engaged in the democratic process and the civic life of your community. First is September 25th at 11 a.m. and the second is October 10th at 6 p.m. We'll leave this up for just one moment if any of you wanted to click those QR codes. But we could also put them back up at the end to make those available to you. So we do look forward to seeing you at those workshops.
All right. So the CCE was established in 1993 And we began partnership with, the Global Campus in 2003. So we have been working in partnership with the Global Campus and Global Campus students for 20 years, which is pretty awesome. The CCE supports students and faculty with all community engagement initiatives on the Pullman and Global Campus. So like Dave mentioned, all of the things that we offer to global students, as well as the service learning classes that we work in partnership with faculty and students on, as well as just kind of navigating how to get engaged in the community are all the different ways that we interact with WSU Global.
And Juan or whomever, feel free to write on our slides. We're just happy you didn't draw a funny face on our colleague's picture up there.
I didn't even know that was a thing, so I'm excited.
I didn't know that was possible either. Sorry, bad segue, but next up, we want to talk a little bit about how to use GivePulse, which is our service learning online platform that connects WSU students across the WSU system with their communities. Some of the things that you can do with GivePulse is you can find service opportunities directly. Our partners, anyone who works with us, will list opportunities on wsu.givepulse.com. And you can find both the partners and the service opportunities that they make available there. You can keep track of your involvement. So all of the things that you do to serve the community will be retained in a record. It can be found in My Activity, which we'll go over a little bit in more detail later. And that's great for if you want to apply for a scholarship or apply for a job, or after you graduate to apply for a graduate or professional school. That record of involvement can be printed out. And if you are interested, you could contact me or our office, and we would be happy to write a formal letter with your engagement on it on CCE letterhead for you to provide for any of those opportunities. You can also see the events that you've registered for on GivePulse. You can submit what's called an impact, which is what GivePulse calls stuff that you do when you attend an event or another opportunity. We keep track of those things, and GivePulse calls those things impacts. So you can submit those impacts for verification either to us in the CCE or the community partner, and you can get a record of your service, which I guess I already talked about. So. And again, any questions you have about any of this stuff, feel free to hop in. Okay, so the way you get started with GivePulse, and we'll go through these fairly quickly, and this will be made available online afterward, but we'll just jump right in. You just create your own account. If you haven't logged into GivePulse yet, just go to wsu.givepulse.com and click the login button at the top. Okay, Meg, next slide. You'll be then prompted with this box. You can either hit login with WSU email or click for more options and hit single sign-on. And the next thing you can do, that's once you have an account, you can find events on GivePulse. The way you do that is this is a partial screenshot of a WSU .givepulse.com screen, and at the top there'll be a button that says explore. You just click on that. And next slide, Meg. Oh, we'll talk more about how to find events and the details of that later.
So yes, perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Dave. So I think as we mentioned earlier, getting onto GivePulse kind of leads us directly into finding what to do on GivePulse. And so kind of trying to think through what you want to do and what you want to get engaged in. A big part of thinking through that is thinking through what is your community. And so we wanted to take a little time just to talk through that word, since it's kind of a large, all-encompassing word that sometimes can mean everything and nothing at the same time. So community is not necessarily a place, a building, or an organization, nor is it a set of like an exchange of information online. Community is both a feeling and a set of relationships among people. People form and maintain communities to meet common needs and address common goals. Communities are really built on our understanding of ourselves and the way that we interact with the world, the ways that we identify with one another and come together to solve problems or find belonging and meaning. We all kind of live and belong in multiple communities. And these on this slide here are some of the common types of communities. So community of place, community of interest, community of identity, community of values, and you can kind of go on and on with this, but those four are kind of like the big kind of all-encompassing different types of community. All right. So for this next part, I'm going to ask y'all to get out a little piece of paper or a little post-it note, or just kind of do a little thinking in your head. We're going to take a little time for some introspection, just a couple minutes, and write down a few things that we identify in each of these categories of different types of communities. This is the beginnings of your own personal communities inventory, and can be kind of a nice way to reflect upon yourself in all these different ways and see the multiple intersections kind of your life and the ways that you interact with the world. So as y'all kind of like think about this and journal and write these things down, I'll just talk through kind of how I ended up filling this out. So community of place, I thought about where I'm from, where I live currently, and also an additional place that I kind of grew up as a child. So I live in Pullman, Washington right now. I grew up in Moscow, Idaho, which is actually just 9 very short miles away from here, but is a different place. And I spent many summers and Christmases and winters in Santa Cruz, California. So those are kind of 3 really big places that are meaningful and places that I feel connected with. Is like when I think of community and place, those are the things that I think of. When I think of the interests that I have, I like to do yoga, I like to go hiking, I'm interested in racial equity and food. I think this list could go on and on, right? But those are some of the things that I find my interest in, and therefore am able to find community in as well. My identity. So these are fairly simple markers of like who I am as a person. A mother, a cis woman, I'm white, I'm from the Pacific Northwest. Those are things that I identify myself and my body as. And then finally, values. These are a little bit more challenging, I'd say, to like identify for yourself if you haven't done an exercise list like this before. So always doing that personal introspection is a really important part of community engagement, and also, you know, personal growth, right? But so some of the values that I find to be really important to how I live my life is mindfulness, courage, sustainability, and relationships. So as I jabbered away and y'all were writing things down, does anybody feel a little brave and want to share anything that they wrote down in or thought of as they were thinking about their personal communities? You can chat it too. Oh.
I don't mind sharing.
Yeah, Erin.
So actually, the reason I wanted to speak up is I am from Santa Cruz, so we already have something in common.
Amazing.
So I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I lived in Santa Cruz for a few years in other parts of the Bay Area. I then moved to Utah, where I went for about 5 years in my early 20s. I had some friends that lived out there, and I just wanted to change a pace, so I lived out there for a good portion. And then now I've been living in the Seattle area for 6, 7 years now. So I heavily identify with all these places because I spent a substantial amount of time in them, and I felt like I was growing as a person as I lived in these places. And so I look back very fondly at parts of my life. The interests that I identify with, that I feel a sense of community around, are hiking. So if anyone ever tells me they're a hiker, especially locally, I'm like, where do you hike? You know, are you like one of the people that go for the really strenuous hikes, or do you go for, you know, more casual hikes? Share your favorite spots with me so I can check them out. I love movies and video games. So if people are into the pop culture entertainment, I love modern and retro. I love movies from the 80s, 90s, and today. So I love discussing twists in movie endings or books that really landed with me, and seeing other people's take on it and how it shaped their personality. I also love Japan a lot. So if people are learning Japanese, I connect with them on that a lot. If they enjoy the entertainment that comes out of Japan, I'm a big fan of that as well. Identity, I didn't have a lot, actually. I don't think of myself as much of an identity. I really like that you put Pacific Northwesterner. I connected with that a lot, just because I feel like I'm in that kind of groove. So I identify there. And then for values, I wrote kindness first. Whenever I meet someone who's a kind person, I really latch on to that kind of person. So if someone is generous and empathetic and community oriented, I tend to draw to that type of person. And then I also wrote introspective. I like to meditate, and I like people who look inward, look for personal growth, look for philosophy, and I connect with that a lot myself. And whenever I meet someone else, I feel like I'm in the same community as that person if they share those values.
Awesome. That's so funny that you're from Santa Cruz. I think that's hilarious.
So it's probably more interesting if we hear from the students, if any students wants to share, but I will hop in just briefly because my places were Wyoming, where I was born and lived for a year. Then Salt Lake City, Utah, where I spent almost all of my life, interestingly. I also did have a hand-me-down Santa Cruz t-shirt, which is my closest connection to that place. I was married in Rome, Italy, and now I'm up here and adopted Pacific Northwesterner in Pullman. Everyone had that. A lot of people had that shirt. I didn't actually buy it. It was a hand-me-down from my actually 12-year-old nephew, who was as big as I was when he was 13. So I got the hand-me-down shirt of him when he was 12. So I definitely a big hiker. And if there are hikes that anyone knows around here that are great, because northern Utah's hiking is a little bit better, I think, than here. But the politics and a lot of the other engagement opportunities are really wonderful here.
Awesome.
And we did have a student comment, which is fun. Amaris, I hope I'm saying that right. Couples, place Bellingham, Washington, Pullman, Washington, Graham, Washington, interest, camping in nature, social justice, reading, politics, identities are spiritual, nurturing, outdoorsy, bisexual, values, leader, emotional, intelligence, caring, and ambitious. So thank you very much, Amaris, for sharing.
This is so good. Even just like sharing little pieces of yourself. We're building community right now, right? We're finding intersections and all sorts of cool things. That's awesome. Okay. All right. Well, Denise and Aaliyah, if you want to chime in at any point, please feel free to chat or just unmute. But thank you all for sharing. And again, this is just this can be an ongoing thing, but just like a nice way to reflect on yourself. But I think as we move on, you can kind of see how, especially at the intersections of these different communities, those are the ways that we get involved in the world around us, and the things that drive us to kind of to action or to introspection or something like that. So, all right. Okay. So why is this all important? Why are we taking our evening to talk about community and think deeper about it? So, well, baked, as you kind of heard earlier from Dave, baked into our mission and vision at the Center for Civic Engagement is the understanding that community engagement ignites a sense of civic responsibility, social advocacy, and increased democratic engagement. And really by understanding our membership within communities, this can bring us one step closer to engaging with them, feeling empowered within them as a member, makes a really big difference in seeing ourselves doing something in the world. And not only just that, but there are also many benefits of community engagement, especially for college students. And in connection with the knowledge that you're building in the classroom right now. There's scholarship that supports the conclusion that getting out into the world and experiencing it in ways that affirm and challenge your beliefs right now while you're in the university can have a tremendous a tremendous effect on not just like your current life, but for the rest of your life, kind of those knock-on effects that you'll be able to see forever. Community engagement while in school can have positive effects on your academic development, including your grades, the degrees that you seek, the time it takes you to graduate, your academic self-confidence, and your own feeling of even just how much you're kind of learning and taking in while you're in school. It can also translate to career advancement once you're finished at the university for various different reasons, the connections that you build, the experience that you have while volunteering, etc. Community engagement can also strengthen our development of leadership skills, self-confidence, critical thinking, group problem solving, conflict resolution, and also hard and soft skills. So really, it can only lead to good things, getting engaged in the community. So this is a model that we wanted to touch on briefly today, called the Active Citizen Continuum. This was developed by Breakaway, which is a community engagement organization, and it has been kind of like adopted by lots of other centers like ours across the country. And it really just helps us kind of dig deeper into how we interact in the communities that we're members of, and how we may move into different roles in these communities. As I walk through this, we'll think back to our personal communities inventory and reflect on the ways that you show up in the role and the roles that you play in those different areas in your life. And I'll kind of model that a little bit as I can here. So I think important to notice that these arrows point both ways. The original model is a line, it's a continuum, right? So that makes sense. But in all actuality, you don't really have to start anywhere or move in a linear fashion in order. It's not really like a prescriptive model, right? And I really should have even added another set of arrows to make this like a full closed circle. Because really, as your life goes on, as your capacity and your interest kind of wanes and waxes, right? You're going to hop around in the different communities that you occupy and occupy different spaces on this continuum throughout your life. What we'll talk through today is how to move from one stop on the continuum to another when we feel inspired to get more involved. So the first kind of stop in the continuum here is the member part. So we're all members of multiple communities because of the relationships we have with others and the way that we identify ourselves within the context of the world. Remember that communities aren't places or organizations, they're these bonds that we have with one another and the reasons that we come together. So in this continuum, in this model, a member is a community resident who's unaware and doesn't yet think about issues beyond their life. So an example that I could think of from my kind of personal communities inventory was like my interest in yoga, right? I love yoga. I love to go to yoga classes. I show up, I do my yoga, and I go away. So, and that's awesome. I think that's great. That's what I need in that community. And that's where I am with that one. So, and I think this continuum is also really good to just normalize, like there's nothing good or bad about being in one spot or another spot. It's what serves you and what serves the community that you're in that moment. So the next stop is volunteer, which is fairly self-explanatory, right? This is a person who gives their time or effort to a cause. They like to help others. They're well-intentioned, but maybe uninformed about social issues. They ask what, right? What can I do? Thinking about my, okay, a good example from my personal communities inventory would be like my interest in hiking and my interest in sustainability. Anytime I'm on a walk or actually even at a park with my toddler, so there's another intersection, I'm always picking up trash. And that's just like, I just see a trash, I say, what can I do? I can pick that up. So again, that's kind of the way that I interact with in that kind of context with those communities that I feel like I'm a member of. Next is the conscientious citizen. So this role or this way that you show up is being knowledgeable about current events, concerned with discovering root causes. In this way, you're asking why when it comes to the community that you're in. So I'm trying to think of a good example from my personal inventories. I mean, you know, showing up in ways where where you're curious, right? You're curious about like, why are you seeing things the way that you're seeing them? And that can be kind of applied to anything in your life, really. The next is the active citizen. So this person is when that specific community becomes a very high priority in the values and the life choices that you make. This is when you're taking action to promote a positive change within that context, and you ask how can I make a difference? So, so yeah, there's the continuum. And again, not necessarily we can adapt this in our lives, and it doesn't need to be linear. It can just kind of be a general way of understanding the roles that you play. All right. So how we move along the continuum is asking these questions of ourselves. So say, you know, I was interested in getting, you know, maybe like I was seeing more and more trash in the places that I was going hiking. And I was like, gosh, I don't know if just picking up things is really what needs to happen here. I would then maybe ask why is this a problem? Why is this happening? Right. So that then kind of will take me into a new space and like a learning zone, a challenge zone where I'm figuring new things out within that same context that I was just a volunteer in. And then same with asking how can you make a difference? What are the things that you're seeing, the things that you've learned, and how can you become an active member in creating that change that you want to see? All right, so that was a lot. If anybody has any questions, just you know, pop them in the chat. But mainly just wanted to get all of our kind of juices flowing about the things that we're interested in, right? And the questions that we're already asking ourselves. I'm sure that many of you are already asking what, how, and why about a lot of different things right now. And so maybe you're interested in like, where do you start? Maybe you don't have a very specific idea of something that you want to do, but you want to learn more and you want to find ways that you can make a difference. In general, I always like to point people towards wherever you are in the world, or I guess in the United States. These are fairly United States specific. Your county's Department of Public Health, your city's community development department, or any United Way or other type of umbrella community resource organization in your area. Those places are wealths of information as far as what's going on in your place-based community, and can also lend itself to lots of different interest, values, identity-based ways to get involved. Searching for needs assessments or gap analyses, will return a lot of results, varied and content. But those are ways that you can kind of learn more if you're curious and looking to get involved. Another really great way to potentially explore and learn ways to get involved is actually using GivePulse. So I'm going to hand us back over to Dave, who's going to take us through the explore function and how we can look around GivePulse to find things that we want to do.
Thanks very much, Meg. What a great picture on the last slide. And that's, I think we don't need to go back to the former slide, but that was at one of our community partners called White Spring Ranch. And man, thinking about the way we put this presentation together, we should have way more pictures of the actual stuff. There've been some things sprinkled in here or there, but the real fun part of both our job and the experiences that we make available to students are doing and creating community in those ways. Like that particular student was helping archive a bunch of really cool things that happen at this museum that's really amazing and in a great place. That really builds community in cool ways. So I'm going to show you a little bit on how to get involved using GivePulse, how to find things that will work out for you. But do keep in mind, like, this GivePulse stuff that I'm talking about now isn't really the fun part. The fun part is finding things to do, going out into your community and really making a difference. So once we went through earlier in the presentation on how to create your account, you'll just want to use your WSU email address, your network ID, and log in to get into GivePulse, and then you can start finding stuff. So if you remember clicking the Explore button at the top of the tab, you'll come to a place that looks like this. The window will look like this. Right here, you can see there's events and groups right under right above the search bar there. You'll probably want to search for events most of the time. So we can show you some ways to be successful with that. And next slide. That first view was the list view. This next view is a map view, and that can show you, this is pretty helpful for particularly global students because it will show you a map there. You can see with a bunch of buttons that have active events. So if you are interested in doing something in Colfax or the Palouse or close to Pullman or Moscow, you could see these little tabs, and you can click on those and you could find the events that are listed there. We could go to the next slide. The next way to search for events is just using our calendar button. That's a really great resource for students on our Pullman campus in particular, because a lot of the things that happen on our GivePulse page are close here on the Palouse area. But that will give you a calendar view, as you can see on there. I just did one day because there's so many events that happen. I usually like to search when I use that by the month view or maybe the week view, but that would let you find opportunities and you could plan either a month or a week or a semester ahead. Probably not a full year because our partners aren't generally in the habit of posting their opportunities more than a semester in advance. But as you can see, there's a lot of events listed. Those WSU affiliated adopt a stream groups. Those happen a long period of time during that day. And then you can have starting at 7 a.m. going on through noon. And then in the afternoon, there would be more events available using that calendar view. Okay, next. GivePulse can be not the friendliest to search, particularly when you're not proximate to the Palouse here. But Aaron has just put this link to the community partner map in the chat. So this is a really helpful tool that the CCE maintains itself. And you can find a bunch of partners that we work with, not necessarily the events, but the partners that we work with that you might be interested in reaching out to or making an inquiry to us or to them to see if they would have something that you might be interested in. So this is all of the partners that we work with all over the world. We do have a lot of partners in the state of Washington. We have a few international partners, particularly in Canada, but we do have partners internationally as well. And one of the great things about this community partner map is it identifies the type of partner by icon. So you can see the education. There's the little, what are they called? What's the graduation cap called? I don't even know.
Right.
Order?
Yeah, I have no idea.
It doesn't matter what it's called. We all know what it is. And then there's a house that does some housing. There's some wheat, I think, that does food and food security issues. There's some artistic ones. There's a palette right there for arts. There's I think a dog paw for animals, which should be prominent, but I don't see right now. And that can help you search by area no matter where you are. You can zoom in or out on that map and move it all around to whatever area that you might be interested in trying to find an event for. So that the link to that map is in the chat, and that can be really helpful to you when you're looking to find a partner. All right, next slide. I don't know if Meg wants to take this one or if I should, but.
Sure, I can take it. So say you're in GivePulse and you're looking around, or you're on that partners map and you don't see something in your area, or you have an idea of an organization already that you want to work with, you can let us know and we will establish a partnership with them, and we will help you figure out how to track your time with them in GivePulse. So be that they may have their own page, or we may provide a way for you to track that information. So this is a form that Aaron very nicely also put in the chat for us here, that comes actually directly to my team here at the Center for Civic Engagement. And we reach out to the organization with the contact information you provide, and establish a partnership with them. So this is one of the biggest ways I'd say that my team and my work intersects with global students. We get a lot of these community partnership requests from global students, kind of looking to do something very specific, be it in a school district or a food pantry, or with a trail cleanup organization, anywhere really across the country. So that can be a really fun part of our job, learning about the things that y'all are interested in. So. Oh, you're on mute, Dave.
Sorry about that. One of the next things that you can use GivePulse to do is to check your activity. And this is the stuff that you do online. You just go in and click activity. You could scroll down to classes, groups, registrations, and impacts are those that our students tend to use the most. Impacts are the things that you've done just to make sure that your record is up to date and that your partner or the Center for Civic Engagement and our staff have properly recorded the things that you have done with us and partners so that it's on your record. Go ahead, next slide, Meg. Oh, is that the last one? I thought I had another slide in there, but this is a good one, and we'll turn the time over to Aaron to cover this one for us.
Thank you, Dave and Meg. So my name is Aaron. I am from the WSU Global Campus Global Connections team, and we want to hear about the public service that you all are engaging in. So if you use the community partner map, or if you volunteered somewhere locally, or however you like to volunteer your time, please visit the website that was just posted in the chat. You can also scan the QR code on the slide here and tell us about your experience. If you tell us your story, we'll reward you with some WSU swag. So everyone that either is in attendance live or watches this video later, if you do any volunteer work, please visit our forum, tell us about your volunteer work, and we will reward your efforts because we're happy that you're out there giving your time and helping others out. So thank you very much for everyone that was in attendance. Thank you very much, Dave and Meg from CCE. This was a great presentation. I hope everyone enjoyed it.